Hello and welcome back to the channel. It's Mark from PowerSonic and Apprentice 121. Today we are going to wire up a shed, and it's a shed with a twist. We've got some exciting stuff to add on to this later on that is a little bit different to your normal shed electrics, so do keep tuned and watch out for following videos on from this one. But starting out, we're going to put basic power and lighting. You can see I've already done it. We're going to run through the whole install, and I want to know, can we wire this up with a £9 VDE screwdriver set from Amazon? We're going to put this to the test and see how good it is. Strap in and let's get on with the video. So you'll see I am in a shed, and on this one we're going to look through installing a consumer unit and some final circuits. In this space there is provision coming down the road for a solar PV system to be in here as well, but that is for another video. On this one I'm going to showcase a few tools, most of which I have bought, and there is one or two things that have been provided for me to use at Apprentice 121, and I will show you those and mention them through the course of this video. You'll note behind me I've got a few boxes from Cities, so CEF, this is all bought, none of it is gifted. I've got it to show on the video and also get this shed nice and safe. And we'll work through that and run through it now, but I am going to be using a very budget VDE screwdriver set, and I thought we'd put these to the test on this video and see how they fare. So this is an interchangeable blade set. I think it was £8 or £9 on Amazon, so we'll see how it actually holds up. We're going to run through all the final terminations with it, socket fronts, light switches, all the accessories. Consumer unit will be wired using this if it survives long enough. So that's going to be an interesting one as we move forward. For now, I'm going to unbox all this stuff. I'll show you what we've got and what we're doing, and then we'll move on with the video. Obviously, I have got power in this space already. There's a socket in this corner which is running off an existing shed space. However, I want to put a separate feed into here for something else that we're doing, and I thought we'd have all the local lighting and power in here from that. For the minute, I'm running my Milwaukee pack-out torch to illuminate things. That's the 18-volt version. Plugged in, charging the batteries up alongside the radio, which I've had to shut off, otherwise you wouldn't be able to hear me. We've got the Milwaukee tool stand down there. It says something about it being a Hoover, but I use it to stand other tools on. We've got the combi drill here for the M12 variety, and then I've got a Bosch 18-volt impact. We use loads of Bosch gear. That was the first set of power tools that I got onto, and we've still got them. They are great value options to have in your equipment. The 18-volt SDS chasing gun, as I like to call it, is brilliant. I've got a very oversized bandsaw for cutting down some conduit, which we'll be getting to later. That is what we use on the solar jobs. The smaller bandsaws are out, so I've had to do that. And then we've got a little M12 sight light here as well, which I'm going to use to illuminate this work area, because this is where I'm actually working. And yeah, we'll have a look at what's in this bag in a minute. It's from TIS. They are the distributors in the UK for Nipex, and there is a blend of TIS gear and Nipex gear in there for an electrician's starter toolkit. They did provide me with one of these free of charge to give out through Apprentice 121, but this is a subsequent set that I've got that I'm giving out to another apprentice because I think these are brilliant. But we'll have a look at them in a minute. The bit of equipment that was gifted is this. So this is from Remi Tools, and it's the tool tray, so the electrician's fuse box tool tray. Over in Ireland, these are pretty well known. I've seen them on social media on the mainland. Some other people have had these and shared them already, but I'm going to demonstrate that on this video. Garrett was kind enough to give me one of these at the installer show last week, and I'll mention a bit about that through the course of this video as well. So I thought we would give it a try. It is to use at Apprentice 121 Academy, but I'll put it to use in the real world. Why not? Give it a run out. And then we've got our final accessories and such, which I will get to showing you, which are all in these boxes, and a light as well for illuminating this space. It's a big one, it's a very high powered one, and it is a new one to the channel. I don't think I've shared these before, so exciting reveal on that coming soon for those of you who like LED batten lights. Probably not very many of you, but it's coming anyway. Let's move along and start getting stuff out boxes. So before I get started with the wiring, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to show you what's in this bag, because there is a tool in it I'm going to need. Running through it, you've basically got your TIS safe isolation kit, so you've got your locks and such. I'm not going to open these and go through them. I've shown them on the channel before, and this is going to be passed on to someone else once I've finished the demo of it on this video. But we've got the TIS little pouch for your voltage indicators and the proving unit, which of course means you also get a voltage indicator. This is the TIS 850. And the proving unit is in here somewhere as well. And again, the TIS proving unit, I think that's among the best value on the market. They really do put a kit together at a price point others do not match. There's a socket tester. So they're calling this like an electrician starter kit, which I have to say has most things you're going to need included. We've got the ergo strip, which is the tool I'm going to need on this. So we'll pop this one out the packet and give it a go on this cable. We've also got some 5-in-1 pliers. So these are brilliant. I've got a few sets of these from Nipex, and as I said, TIS are the distributors for Nipex in the UK, which is why there is this blend of the equipment in this bag. There's also the Nipex side cutters, all VDE rated. Nicely in there, there's a bolt pen, which is fantastic. And then an addition from me to this kit, because it wasn't in it, but I popped a set of Nipex drivers in there for the lucky recipient of this, for them to make use of. And I'm going to be maybe having to use these if my budget set of £9 drivers don't hold up. And it really was to just show the difference in what you're getting for your money when you do think that these things maybe cost more than they should. These sets are sort of 30 to 50 quid depending on how many drivers and what brand you're going for. And some of these budget options on Amazon, I even got a set I think from Cities for about £6, which just blows my mind. But there is a distinct quality difference, and we'll get into that through the course of this video. But that's kind of it, that's the bag. So now we can start actually fitting some electrical equipment. I'm just going to borrow the ergo strip from this kit and get on with that. We're going to pop this consumer unit in this top corner here, and we'll speak a bit about the how and why as we run through the rest of the install. There, I actually need it. Actually, I might just use a knife and then I don't have to unwrap it. So we've got our cable through here, and this is a HO7 heat flex, and I'm running it along the top of this shed on the outside. I can't show you outside because it's onto neighbouring properties and I don't have permission to film, but we're basically going to take that underneath the GRP roof overlap, so it'll be in the shelter there, and then we're going to prop it down and through into an existing consumer unit that's the other side in this larger shed, and we're going to bring that through to here, basically extending the distribution circuit down to this board as the central hub to everything, and then the board that's in that shed will become a sub board to this one. So we've got a bit of staging, but it was a way of working in the solar side of things I'm thinking about for a later video. And look at that, the coffee has arrived in a very large mug. That is a monster cup of coffee. I normally save those big cups for tea. I decided not to use the ergo strip because I couldn't bring myself to unpackage something that is technically someone else's, and I should have brought my own ergo strip home. So I'm going to just use a knife. The issue with just using a knife is, one, it's not safe because you've got an exposed blade, you could slip and cut yourself. The other is, if you've got bad eyesight like me, you can overcut through into the inner cores, but I'll pop the glasses down and we'll give it a best go, not to injure myself or damage any cables in the production of this video. So we don't need a great deal of this exposed, and for those of you who've never stripped HO7 before, it is a thicker sheath, so you can be a little bit tougher on it. And again, this is where my eyesight is tested. I'm trying not to cut too deep first time round, but we'll just see how that's gone in, because it's a new sharp blade on your knife as well, so you get used to the kind of cutting depth of a blade. As it gets a bit blunter, you pop a new one in and you can go a bit mad. But that needs a little bit more, so we'll just give it a little bit more pressure. And what I find is, once you've got it going, rather than slice, if you apply pressure on the blade ever so gently, it kind of pops as you're stretching it, and it just enables it to cut through without you reaching those inner cores. Everyone has their own way. It's what you're comfortable with. The one thing you don't want to do is slice your hands open, so make sure you practice with the Stanley knife if you're new to doing this as a learner, and don't be cutting yourself because it's just not worth it. Trips to hospital or first aid are no fun. We just need a little bit more pressure on this side, and I think we're about through then. So again, just being very careful now, really light pressure just to cut through where it's still a bit thick, and then as you sort of pull it apart, it should start to snap away. As you can see, it has done there, and then we're just checking to make sure we've not nicked anything, and I haven't, which is lucky with my bad eyesight and a new Stanley knife blade. I'm not going to pretend I've never gone a bit too far into a cable before using a knife. It's one of those things where you learn through practice, and different cable types strip in different ways, and that's where using something like an ergo strip can be really helpful because it avoids all of that difficulty. But yeah, we're done now. That's ready to go into our consumer unit, so we can get that out and speak a bit about the setup we've got with that in here. So this is a bit of a different approach to what we've taken before on the channel. We're actually using a plastic consumer unit. We're in an outside shed, so there's no requirement in regulations to use a metal consumer unit in this environment. And I've gone for plastic because it's sort of an unheated space to a point, and there will be condensation, there will be spiders trying to find their way into stuff, and it just made more sense because it's not really part of a dwelling to go for a plastic enclosure. There is some other benefits with plastic consumer units, and I've gone to town on this before when people are fitting outdoor consumer units for EV charge points and such that are metallic, and whilst we're trying to avoid pen faults affecting the material, the vehicles, if we're using a metallic consumer unit, which is pre that pen fault protection, you're kind of defeating the object as a consumer comes to interact with that resetting breakers. It's not a factor here because we're in a shed, we're on a timber floor, we're kind of outside of, you know, any danger of someone being in direct contact with a mass of earth in the back corner here. However, we're combining this with solar PV and battery storage, as we're going to do later on, and some of the other requirements with that. I was more comfortable with a plastic consumer unit on that basis. It just felt better for a bit of IP protection and proper weather sealing on this, in this location. And again, it's still an unheated space. Technically, you could argue this is a pollution degree 3 area, and there's a bit of extra protection on the components in the board due to this sort of construction, but we'll show that as we move the video along and explain it a little bit more. You might have approached it in a different way, so if you've got comments on that, please do drop them in below. I'm all there for learning. I know you can get IP versions of metallic consumer units. Proteus actually make one, I think, that's fresh out to market, so there is an option there. But yeah, for me, plastic just made more sense in this particular environment, and that's what I've gone for. But let me know what you think in the comments. We'll get this mounted up in the top corner. I need to pop a little gland on it. Hopefully I've brought my hole saws, fingers crossed, and we can get on with that. But the point of that is we're gonna house this up here, and again it's kind of out above a mounting height we would use for compliance with Part M of the building regs. However, there is going to be bikes and lawnmowers and stuff stored in here, and I wanted it up out the way. That access for people turning breakers on and off is superseded by safety, I would say. And the other thing is it's out of reach of kids as well who may come into this environment. So there's considerations beyond just regs. There's some common sense application of things that's often missing, I think, sometimes with the way we feel brave enough to install. It's like we're so fearful of complying with all these things that sometimes we lose sight of, you know, actually looking at what's in front of you and making an engineering decision. And I'm trying to demonstrate that in the course of this video, and my decisions might be different to yours. But yeah, this is going high level. I may pop it a bit tighter to the corner, we'll see, but I'm just going to pop a gland in the side first and we'll hold it up and see how it all sort of fits together. Once the gland's on, we may need a bit more space for that, been tightened and such as we get to that stage. I need to find the gland and the hole saws, which hopefully are around here. There's a gland, so that's a start. Hopefully we've got a hole saw. Oh, look at that. It's almost like I know what I'm doing and I'm not just winging it. Who knew? So now we've lifted it off the wall, we need to make sure I put the hole in the right side. And again, I've got this wrong a lot in the past when I've had isolator switches and ended up with them the wrong way around after faffing about for a bit. So always double and triple check, especially as you get older and more senile like me, that you have actually got the hole on the right side, and that will work. Yeah, I don't want to go in the top there. So we've got a nice little knockout on the side, and we can get that in nice and easy, hopefully. Try and miss that screw now. Necessary, but they come with little caps to cover the back fixings. We may as well use them because we've got them. Why not? If these were sort of outdoors, you would be using them along with a weatherproof washer and fixing. we don't need to do that in this environment because it is perfectly dry, aside from the potential for condensation and such. So that's us nicely set there. So as you'll see with this, we've got the kind of dust seal on there. It's like a foam gasket, so when that's closed, it locks up nice and tight, and we're not going to get any dust ingress to the consumer unit. I've also got a condensation valve for the bottom side of this consumer unit as well. It just lets it breathe a little bit to try and stop condensation forming inside it. While this is sheltered and it's out of the elements and the temperature won't drop quite as low as it is outside, and there are plans for this space for it not to be a shed. It's a bike store at the minute, but down the road it's going to be a bit of a plant room. So there is going to be changes in here, which is why I'm setting it up in this way, but just something to consider, and I've spoke about this before, with outdoor switchgear, you are in a pollution degree 3 and 4 area when you're installing that equipment, and really you need to select your overcurrent protected devices based upon that, certainly with EV chargers, which are high power consumption. We're only going to have quite a small load down here, even at the end phase of what we're up to. But yeah, it's something to think about, and technically speaking, this would be a pollution degree 3 area in my opinion. It's unheated. There will be dust and dirt and stuff blowing in and out, bikes in and out as well. It's just the nature of the beast with it. But I'm comfortable using a normal Proteus Type A bidirectional RCBO in this enclosure with oversight of what's coming for this little end segment of the shed down the road. But for the minute, really, I should have probably been looking at 60947-2 overcurrent protected devices, kind of in the summer period. It's not been super duper hot, so fingers crossed I get away with it. And it'd be interesting to see how they behave anyway. Even if you were wanting to continue with that and use those in sheds, it's really common people would fit normal, I'm calling them normal, domestic grade breakers and switchgear in a detached garage, for example, that isn't heated, or in a garden shed. And it's gone on since the dawn of time. There's nothing new or unique about that. It's the way it's always been done, and for my reckoning, there's not been a great catastrophic fallout due to that. The issue with fully outdoor switchgear changes things because you're more exposed to the elements, especially black, where they'll absorb that UV light, and they're more likely to suffer from impact damage. And as I mentioned, the metallic side of things, I've done this to death before, so I'm not going to go over it. But I have shared examples with GRP enclosures, consumer units in them outdoors, with little heaters and fans and such, to try and mitigate as best you can the environmental conditions to change it from pollution degree 3 to 2 inside the equipment you're fitting. So yeah, that's kind of the view there. But we'll get on with this now, because I am starting to waffle about a totally different topic, and I'll show you how this shed starts to come together. Just to mention, for those of you who haven't seen, there is earth electrodes to death down here, so we are, it's not TT'd, we're on an earth electrode with this part of the installation. If we wanted, we could theoretically use the PME in this area anyway, because we're on a timber deck, and you're allowed to expand your equipotential zone into those areas. The only thing to consider would be if you're bonding any other services that come into these spaces, but we've got the rods, so, and the conge discs and a load of other copper, so we're just going to use that. It works well for the islanding side of things that's coming as well alongside this later on. But yeah, we'll get on with it now. There's some lights to get up and some sockets, so we'll do a bit of that. I'll just move you out the way ever so slightly. So we've gone for a Tamlite LED light. This is 1800 mils long, it is 69 watts and 4000 K. This is going to be super bright in here, probably overkill, but we'll get to installing it. I've got the instruction manual here, that's why I've got the glasses on, so I've just been reading those. It looks pretty straightforward to wire. We're going to take some conduit straight into it and off this consumer unit, and yeah, we'll see how that brushes up. I'll just pop you back to the other side of the shed out of the way and maybe do a bit of a time lapse of installing it, and then we'll talk about the product once it's on the wall and all wired in. Let's use the very overkill bandsaw. Massive overkill for this, but there we go. So these cables are going to be a bit overkill because it's all I had in the van. They are actually 4mm, but better to be over than under. And if ever I want to change this back to something like a nice big sodium light fitting, I've got the option of doing so. Just to mention actually about installer show while I was there last week, so I was there working with an installer on the trades installer trades area where we was demonstrating products from Weir, Nipex, Armeg, clothing, DeWalt. It was really good fun, apart from the catwalk. Unfortunately, a few people caught me doing that, but in for a penny, in for a pound. Giving these things a try and seeing how I find them is a good experience. I know it's not for everybody, and this whole getting paid to do stuff bothers a few people. You know, for me, as long as people are transparent about it and they're enjoying themselves, I don't have an issue whatsoever. And yeah, just to mention, it was great fun. There was loads of renewable stuff getting demonstrated. NAPIT were there, CEF were there. There was quite a bit of electrical stuff. They are trying to grow that year on year, so if you're coming along next year, hopefully we've got some test instrument manufacturers there and some switchgear manufacturers. I've been speaking to both parties in those places, trying to encourage them to come along. But it was a ginormous show, 2 stands, rammed full of visitors and exhibitors. It was brilliant, and it was great to see everyone who popped along to the safe isolation stand that was provided by Installer free of charge, as part of what we're doing with all of that. So yeah, that was really good fun. Now I'm just going to wire this light up. You may have noticed that we've got a little wireless receiver in there. That's for the light switch. There's no point really cabling up a physical switch in here. We'll just use one of the RF style linkage jobbies to turn this on and off. Avoids cabling. It's a bit more safe for people with wet hands who might be stood outside turning the light on, reaching in the shed. So that's actually quite impressive that this lid sort of clips in. So it's a bit easier one-handed, if I can find the clips. Pop those in, and there we go. That is that, ready to rock. We've got the consumer unit to sort now, so we need a bit of power as well. I'm going to drop a little socket down this end, and really that's just for charging up bits of power tools and whatnot. So I'll drop you down a bit lower, get you in a bit closer, and we'll go through what we're doing with all of that as well. So before I address this board away, I just wanted to mention the Remi tools again, and thank you very much, Garrett at Installer Show, for giving me this to use at Apprentice 1-to-1 Academy. But I wanted to demo it on this video. It's not a great example because it's quite a small consumer unit, but there's 2 options he's given to me. One is the tray. This is the electrician storage tray. You hang it on the DIN rail at the back. You can put your ferrules in there, for example, Wagos if you're using them, bit of sleeving, whatever it is that you're going to need in and around the consumer unit or distribution board. They go into there. Same for any hand tools. If you want to drop them in, they will go in there. And then there's the electrician's tool carrier, which clips also onto the DIN rail in the back, and you can hang your snips, your screwdrivers and such on there. So I'm gonna take this one off, just unclips. Just because of the space in this board, it's quite a small one. If you were on a dual stacker or a wide consumer unit that you fit in, these are going to be ideal, certainly with your ferrules for your RCBOs, and we'll maybe do a better demo of that on a slightly bigger board. And this, again, absolutely perfect just for holding your tools. Even in this, it's quite a small board, probably leave this in here and use it. I usually just chuck my croppers and screwdrivers in the back of the board in my pockets, and then you're kind of tapping around trying to find stuff. We all do that electrician's dance, I'm sure, when we're fitting consumer units, like where did I put my croppers, where did I put my drivers, and you start reaching and feeling about. With this, it's right in your face, you get into the habit of putting it in there. So I'm going to give this one a go. I am stood on a little step because, as I said at the start of this video, I've popped this up in a sort of inaccessible place because of the use of this room, but I will try and make use of this. We've got some RCBOs to go in and stuff, so I'm going to start on with that, and we'll talk about that screwdriver in just a sec. But a really fast and easy way to fit your SPDs. There's no faffing around with an overcurrent protective device for these. These can go straight on to a 100 amp bar, so you've no need to pop an overcurrent protective device in with these Proteus SPDs. The little Remi tray would have come in handy because I could have popped all these in there. As it is, I'll go old school and use my mouth. So the first circuit on this obviously is the SPD, but then we've got a secondary circuit, which is the socket just below where I am here, and we'll pop in that on a V20. So we'll just clip that on. That's in nice and tight. We've then got our lighting circuit for the light fitting you'll have seen me popping up earlier, which is adjacent to that. And we'll pop that on. I'm then going to leave a little space just for a bit of airflow around this circuit, and this is where it gets a little bit tight because AFDDs are taller, but we should be able to wiggle it in, and we have. So they're all on there, and the beauty of the Proteus Busbar system is you cannot miss the cage clamp because it tightens under the front screw, so you get it in there every time and go back. So my thinking with the AFDD, and I need to check actually with the Proteus datasheet if that is bidirectional or not, because if it isn't, it'll need changing out for an RCBO. We're in a timber structure. It is kind of out in the garden, so if the worst was to happen, it's no massive issue in terms of loss of life, but obviously there's quite a bit of value in this building and everything else, and putting all the protective measures in we can seems to make a lot of sense. Now the inverter that we'll be using, and I'll show that in a later video, has a lot of this built into it anyway. It looks for arc detection, it's got SPDs, it's got transient voltage, there's all sorts of protection in it regardless, but a bit of additional made a lot of sense. If anything, in terms of regulations, we'd be looking at the AFDD on the socket outlet rather than a PV inverter at the minute. This is really just a little experiment of mine, if that isn't appropriate, because we have got that energy flow in two directions, it'll have to come out. But yeah, for the minute, I thought I'd pop it in and we'll see where we end up with that. It's going to be unwired for the time being. That's coming in a future video with the development of the plant room. So yeah, we've got that coming. And if we need to, we'll swap that out. I'm going to fit the AC isolator and such next to it in a sec, but I just thought I'd cover that off. So the design on this one, we've actually got a C32 down at the house, which covers the steel wire armour down here. It is RCD protected anyway, so we could have just used MCBs. However, I wanted RCD protection on the final circuits. You never know, you might get lucky and they operate here pre-there. It's not the end of the world in terms of selectivity if the upfront one goes. It's one of those. We could have used an MCB on the SWA submain down to here, but again, with it being in and around the fence, and we couldn't get it as deep as we wanted to due to the footings and the pavies that are in the garden, we popped an RCD on it anyway. It's one of those in a domestic setting. You're going to struggle to achieve selectivity both for your overcurrent and your RCDs, but we live in line with that. I like to strip with automatic strippers and side cutters, but for me, you're never ever ever going to have a more versatile tool in your armoury than croppers. If you are an apprentice and a trainee and you want to really sort of get a good skill set to start with, make sure you learn how to use a pair of croppers, because they will cut and strip most things where others cannot. Dressing your cables in, there's all kinds of ways you can do it. People approach it different. If you're really trying for an Instagram super duper neat board, the best thing to do is take your time. I've shared videos on dressing boards away before if you want to watch them. They're all out there that have a few tips in that might be helpful, might not. We all have our bad habits as well, so don't just copy me blindly. And if you're a DIYer, don't even do it at all. You need to be consulting a proper electrician, because I guarantee at some stage you'll burn your house down, and your insurance company don't like that. Your family won't thank you for it, and all that money you think you'd saved by not paying someone what it costs to do the job properly will look like no saving at all, and one of the most expensive mistakes you ever make in your life. So there we are, that's kind of dressed away as neat as I can do. It's always a bit tricky with the fine stranded cables and your singles as well, 7-strand. Point of note with a conduit, you should always really use singles in it. I'm not saying I haven't stuffed twin and air through it before, but it's a lot easier with singles, and it gives a prospect of drawing new cables in and out without a great big pin. The backside, I think that's come up quite nice. The AFDD sat there waiting in case it is bidirectional. I need to double check on that, I'm not sure. Something's telling me that it isn't, so I'm going to look at that. We've also got the Proteus M2 rotary isolator that's ready to go alongside this, with the super secret plant room and all the rest of that stuff that we're up to as well. I'm going to test this now, so we'll get that tested. I can turn the power on and I'll show you it all working. We'll have a chat about what we've done. I'm going to include the testing with part 2 of this video, which is the solar PV and the battery storage system, because there's some interesting tests to do in and around all of that, and I thought putting all that together makes more sense. But I'm going to test this now, talk it all up, make sure that's all good, get the lid on, and I'll come back to you, show you it's working, and we'll have a little chat through what we've done. before we get to that stage, there's a socket down here to wire and a final test on this screwdriver with a flat blade in. So we'll do that first, getting a bit carried away, and then we'll pop all this back together. Catch up with you in just a sec. So down to the socket, hopefully you can see that I've got it stripped and ready to go, but this is the little set. The bits actually don't look brilliant, to be honest. I'm going to be straight with you. For £9, I wasn't expecting them to, but there is a good selection. There's this triangle shaped one, there's some Y bits, a little pin one, and some smaller flat blades. So I'm going to go for a smaller flat blade than this one. It looks a bit chunky. So we'll switch out for the littler flat blade and we'll see how we get on with this metal clad socket. So I'll just grab that and pop that to a side. Hopefully this all fits. So these are the metal clad sockets from M2 and I really like these. Excellent value, and the terminals on them are brilliant. The back box is super solid with lots of knockouts that don't just fall out, but you can actually tap them out as well rather than having to bray hell out of them like some other brands. So we've got that to do. I'm going to have a bit of a fight getting that earth in the back there because this is 4mm that I've doubled over, so I may end up having to cut and strip that. But let's see how the flat blade holds up on these budget drivers with the terminals. Hopefully neither or the other gets shredded. It feels pretty tight. Nothing slipped, so that's good. That's our earth. Make sure we get the line neutral the right way around. This is going to require glasses, so it's over on that side. I always check these because there was, I think it was it Selectric, I think, which used to have a range of white moulded sockets, and the line and neutral used to swap around on the back of them. So you get into a habit of doing them the same way. I think it's the same socket, it's the same way. And it turns out that's not always the case. So I've been caught out by that in the past. So now I always double and triple check the back of my socket fronts, pre-terminating them. And for those of you who watched my eFix Live effort, you'll know this kind of work isn't as easy as it first seems when you're under pressure on camera. So lots of people have found that out the hard way, me included. So I managed to get them in. Give it a little tighten, because we must earth our metal back boxes, even if it's not necessarily required due to the fixed lugs. I think there was some change in the regs around all of this. But I still do it anyway. Doesn't take that long, does it? Let's be honest. I always try and fold them in. There's probably a bit too much length on there, to be fair, but it just enables it to be a bit easier fitting it back. I'll get a little picture of that. So why not? And then I'm going to have to tidy it up. I'm not looking forward to that. You can't see behind me right now. It's a mess of cardboard, offcuts, and all the rest of it. And unfortunately, there's no plumbers here, so I'm going to have to tidy it up myself. So when you fold your cables in, they go in nice and easy, and you've not got any sort of compression on the box. If you've got that wrong, you'll feel it trying to spring out, and the screws won't go in nice. You'll end up nicking something. And for those of you who are eagle-eyed, you'll notice there's some USB chargers on this. Now, you don't necessarily need them where we are here, but for those of you who are familiar with fairy lights and such, that I'm sure will end up going around this shed in my house, I just know it. I thought they might come in handy. And for the extra cost, I think this made the metal clad socket about 17 or 18 quid. It's not mega money for a USB one in the grand scheme of things, and it saves a socket outlet for a DC plug, doesn't it? So it makes sense. I know people go for east-west, north-south. I'm always a north-south kind of guy, so I don't know what you are, but that's what I go for. But with these USB sockets, we've got the 5 volts, 3100 milliamp, and they are Type A and Type C. So we've got two different options there. If I ever end up being chucked out of the house and need to move into the shed, I can charge my phone up. So that's that bit done. We'll pop the cover on and then jump back for a little chat about everything in a sec. So I've just taken a few comedy pictures to share with my friends Jamie. Yeah, not sponsored by CT1 or Unilight, but full credit to anybody who is. Fair play to you, anyone who's getting sponsorship deals like that. I think it's brilliant. If you can make a living and a bit of extra money on the side through sponsorship promoting brands, fair play, there's value there. People wouldn't be paying you for it if there wasn't, and if you enjoy it, crack on. The lights are on. It's brilliant, really bright. So this is an 1800mm long Tamlite 69 watt 10,000 lumen light, and it lights this space brilliantly. So this is about 5 meters long, this shed, 1.2 meters wide, so it's a long old room, and it's lighting it up absolutely beautiful. I'm really happy with that. It wasn't super expensive, again from Cities, and you can integrate built-in PIR detection and such with this, but I've gone for the old wireless switch, nice and safe. We can put it by the door and people can turn that light on and off quite happily, and we'll see how long it lasts and I'll report back on that. But really easy to fit and it looks nice. You can see it better without the light on. Nice shape to it. It's got another outlet on the side here, so if you were wanting, you could chain it along to another fitting, and you can also mount them onto conduit inspection boxes, outlet boxes if you want. So if we didn't have the luxury of lining up nicely for the conduit to go straight in, you can sit it on boxes and do that. Yeah, we'll have a little look through with the lights on. So you can see down here, now we've got the Proteus board, and that's all ready to go. So the AFDD is currently off. It is wired in, but not out. So that's sat there. We need to determine if that is bidirectional, as we said. We've got our B20 RCBO, which is ready, which is on for the socket just down. If I can, that's my dog going mad. Socket just down here. So we've got the Type A, Type C. That's all ready to go, and we've also got the lighting circuit on there as well. So yeah, that was my dog. Just had to go and tell him to leave next door alone while they're doing some gardening that they're quite entitled to. So we've got the socket here, all ready to go, nicely done. Lighting circuit again. These are double pole, bidirectional, Type A. Proteus have been doing that for longer than anybody. Absolutely brilliant switch gear. There is also, if I just pop that down, the M2 rotary isolator, but as yet I'm unsure how all of this is going to fall into place. So I'm not going to use that yet. We might end up putting the battery storage and PV inverter outside. This huge box down here is a data cabinet which towers the batteries. So we've got a new system to the channel coming, which has stackable batteries, but you can also put them in a data cabinet, which I'm doing because the way the batteries wire onto themselves doesn't comply with the PAS, and I wanted a locked cabinet to kind of cover off that as best we can. So there's that aspect. The other thing I wanted to mention is to do with the stuff that Garrett sent, and that is these. So this is a brilliant idea, and he's modifying this and improving it all the time. Fair play to him. I think that is a really good solution to what is a common problem. I tried to demonstrate that in this video. I like it, and I'm sure it will be refined to work better with boards from the UK alongside those over in Ireland. And the thing I didn't mention in the course of the video is you actually get 2 of these tool hangers in the box if you are going to get one of these. So you've got 2, you can put them on the board in different places. You can see they've got little clips on the back to fit on the DIN rail, and they're brilliant. And again, I had a good chat with Garrett at the installer show. He's not paid me to say any of this stuff, he's just given me the kit to use at Apprentice 1-to-1, but I like to try and pay that kindness forward where I can. I know my YouTube channel is relatively small compared to the big hitters such as Nick, Jordan, Corey, Efix, all those people. I shouldn't start naming them because there's a fair few, full credit to them. But I will do my best to try and help other people, and I think that's a legitimately decent invention. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll tag his Instagram profile alongside this video so you can go and check it out if you want to. The screwdrivers. These are the interesting bit and the core focus of the video in a way. And I noticed when I was looking at these, packing them away, that they're actually 500 volts. So they're not 1000 volt VDE rated. But they've held up. They've not broken and shredded the ends. Normally the cheap ones, when they're going to break, they just fall apart the first time you use them. I've tried all the ones I've got screws for, so there's some of these torque bits and the Y bits and the forked ends which I've not been able to give a go. But if you look at the ends of these, see the flat blade, if I get it in the right angle, it's pretty thick, pretty sturdy, pretty strong. There's a good selection of bits in there. It's a shame there's not a posi bits, but the PH fit the Proteus board fine. They were tightening up just nice. Magnetic in the way it holds in. And again, these are £9, 10 quid at the most, whatever it was. And I've done a review on various screwdrivers, maybe 10 videos or so ago, if you want to dig back, where I've looked at some other budget brands and some of the more well-known premium brands, and you do get what you pay for. There's no getting away from that. But I appreciate lots of people following my content are training, and they are on limited budgets. And if you've got a shed that you're popping a little board up to practice on, and you want a cheap set of hand tools to get used to working with VDE drivers and stuff, don't throw them around the place. But they tick the box. They will do absolutely fine. They seem to be holding up all right. I'll keep using them over the rest of this week and see how they go. And obviously 500 volts is under 1,000, but it's still above the voltage rating of most of the circuits we'll be working on. And we should be working dead at all times. That is kind of a final big mistake being made level of protection. Having the VDE tools, don't ever go to work live with those tools unless there is appropriate risk assessment, method statements, and an organised process around doing it and understanding it is live work. But yeah, not bad. And you'll see on the back here, I'll show you it, it actually lists the company name, which is Rushang Yingfui's Electronic, and I've probably said that wrong. And there's actually an email address of a person that you can email, so that's Wang Yinsheng. Fair play to you. And CE marked, which could be China Electric, China Electronics, China Engineering, whatever. It could actually be proper CE. There is a subtle difference in the marking. But these are from Cover Associate Limited, and they're in Portsmouth. And again, there's an email address. So if you want to email these people and ask them about the products, get the data sheets on them and reassure yourself that these are good to go. I've got no reason to suspect they're not, apart from the price. I just can't believe that can be made for £9, to be fair. But yeah, there you go. That's those drivers. They didn't fall to pieces. I wouldn't choose to use them myself. It's not something I'm going to put in my tool bag for day to day. They do feel cheap. They won't last as long as the other gear I've got. But as I said, for your practicing in your shed, for a little DIY set to have at home, not wrong with them really. But yeah, that's kind of where we're up to. The next stage of this video now is going to be getting the battery storage in. There's going to be some partitioning here, more OBS, some concrete board. I'm going to segment it off from the rest of the shed and try and protect it from the elements a little bit as well. Obviously with the batteries and winter, I'm not just thinking about the overcurrent protected devices here. I'm trying to put these outdoors to comply with the intents of the PAS, but also under shelter. And do it safely, and where I'm maintaining a stable environment for these things to live. So there's plans and stuff coming with that, and I'm excited to share it with you. It might not be the next video, it could be the one after. It depends how it all edits together and aligns. We've got some big projects coming up. I'm going off to record another all-in-one install, which is in Colchester actually, and that's a bit of a different one because we're taking the feed from the house down to the garage in a sub-main from a switch fuse. Gateway's going in there with the all-in-one and everything, so there's a bit of a difference with that one. Then we are on a roof not too far away from here with a 20-panel system, and that's getting a Zappy EV charger. So I am fitting those again, having spoke to the people at My Energy, and there's a podcast on all of that on the Renewables channel, link in the description if you want to go off and watch it. So we've got one of those to go in alongside another all-in-one gateway and 18 Jinko panels. And then we've got some commercial grade battery storage systems, so some 3-phase stuff. We're going for the Give Energy and Sig Energy, so we've got an example of each to share on that basis as well. So that should be really interesting. There's some good content coming. I'm excited to get out and do the work. We're just cleaning up some more traditional stuff. We've got some testing work we're doing on some big shop fit outs, really big. So these are massive shops. Yeah, I'm not going to name them, but it's good work for us. It's kind of our bread and butter day to day outside the solar stuff. So we're getting all that sorted out, and we've been squirreling away at that in the background, but we're keen to get back on with some of the renewable stuff on the channel as well. So that is coming soon. I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody who has subscribed, liked, disliked, interacted with my content. If you've got comments around all of this, especially the plastic consumer unit and the setup I've got here, please do drop them in below. Just to run over that one last time, we've got a C32 RCBO at front of all of this, which feeds a submain down to the shed, which is now split from this consumer unit, or it will be, and that is in a 6mm steel wire armour, and then we are dividing those circuits in this room and also in the shed just behind. So there's some changes going on with all of that. Once it's finished, I'll take you through the entire thing. But we do have selectivity issues in the way the MCB side of things will operate, And we do with the RCD side because we do have upfront RCDs the same rating as downstream. And maybe we can swap in a B-type 30 milliamp rated protected device at source here. You know, that's the issue when you have got all these things hanging on one circuit. It's the blinding of them if we was to go over that 6 milliamps of DC leakage into the circuit. So we could have that down here on the shed circuit, for example. We could then have that, sorry, on the solar circuit. We could then have it on some equipment that's plugged in the shed. This light could be doing a little bit, and the cumulative effect of all of that is that the RCD downstream of all of this gets blinded because it's only a type A. So if we was to swap that for a type B, we'd still have the conflicting tripping of 30 milliamps for the air fault side of things, but in terms of blinding due to DC leaking on the circuit, not that I think there will be a lot, to be fair, we've kind of covered that off with the B-type up front. So maybe we can swap that in later down on this little series. I'll consider it. Depends how much they cost. And I'm already pushing my luck doing all of this, to be honest. It's supposed to be a shed for bikes. And I've made it a little bit bigger than I was gonna to do this. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. The pot of money I've got on all this isn't never ending, but I'm sure we can maybe stretch to an RCBO. So there we are. Any comments, drop them in below. Thanks as always, and I'll see you on the next one.